Hello, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, and thanks for stopping by. Our dedicated team will guide you through with the latest updates and theories at Starbase, Texas. If you're new to the channel, be sure to hit the subscribe button and the bell icon for future streams.
Good morning.
Hello, everybody. My name is Zack Golden. Welcome to another Starbase Weekly live stream. Happy to be here with y'all this week. We've got a lot of stuff to cover. There's been a ton of activity over the past week, so we're going to probably struggle to fit this within 2 hours, but, you know, that's how it usually goes. So either way, hopefully you guys enjoy the show. Got some guests with us today, as always. Thank you, Alex, for joining us today.
Thank you, Zach. Joy to be here. Yeah, it's going to be this week. They went above and beyond with all the things they did. So
Yeah,
can't
for
wait.
sure. Yeah, and I actually made a mistake by saying that plural because it's just Alex and I today. But we do have Astro Joe handling all of the questions and donations. So Astro Joe, thank you for being here.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, my friends. Yeah, looking forward to get through these pictures from episode 155 from yesterday, taking around, 9 to 11 or so Central Time. So let's dive right in. Enjoy the show.
Awesome. And yeah, I was actually not supposed to be here this week, but circumstances changed, so was able to do the show this week. So glad I didn't have to wait until next week, especially with the launch mount for Pad B finally being lifted in position. So that's exciting. Didn't want to miss that at all. But yeah, can't wait to get to that. That's going to be probably near the end of the show. Like I said, tons of stuff to talk about. And as most of y'all may already be aware, some of these images are already outdated. So this flyover was from yesterday, but as you can see, Booster 14 was on the pad at the time, but as of right now, it is currently back at the build site in Gigabay 1. So I guess, you know, normally we do just go straight to Massey's, but we'll probably just talk about that really quick. So yeah, Booster 14 moved back last night. It was actually pretty quick. So they moved the transport stand to the build site, I think in the morning, and then a few hours later, it came right back to the launch site. So we don't really have any information on that currently, but I do have my own speculation on what that could be. obviously, there's a whole list of reasons of what could cause that. But one thing that I've been mentioning for several weeks now, at least within my own Discord server, I don't think I've said anything on the show about it. But I did think that it would be in their best interest to reconfigure Marvin / Crane X. This is the SpaceX LR 11,000, which was helping out with the launch mount lift. And as you can see, it's still in that same configuration and currently assisting with the qualification testing for the Chopsticks. And because of that, because of the configuration it's in, they don't have a crane that's capable of reaching the top of the booster if they needed to remove the hot stage ring for some reason. That is one of the biggest things that we normally see with the boosters once they're on the pad, is that every now and then they end up needing to remove that hot stage ring, whether that's to access the flight computer or something with the grid fins. It's been pretty typical that we see that. And as of right now, they don't have the ability to remove that at the pad. So again, it could be for a different reason, but I have a feeling that it could possibly be related to that. So if they need to get that hot stage ring off for any reason, then it basically has to go all the way back to the build site. So yeah, a bit confusing to me if that is the case, why they didn't use the Buckner LR 11,000. Well, I guess technically they're both owned by Buckner, but why they didn't use this crane to help out with that job and then bring Marvin over here for reconfiguration. So yeah, it'll be interesting. I think the door on Megabay 1 closed right now, I think. It'll be tough to know whether or not they end up actually removing that hot stage ring, but potentially we may see the actual ring stand move there. I don't know if we can see it through the fencing with the Lab Padre and NSF cameras, but that may give us an indication of why it went back if we actually do see that ring stand move back there. So, Alex, did you have anything you wanted to add to that?
No, you pretty much covered everything. It's kind of unfortunate the first time they're without a means of accessing below the hot stage rings that perhaps they needed to.
Yeah, and I do see. I'm going to help Joe out here. I see a question related to this in the comments, which
Sounds good, buddy.
probably could have predicted this question. Why not use the chopsticks for lifting off the hot stage ring? People have been asking that question since the beginning of time. Why not use the chopsticks for this? Why not use the chopsticks for that? The chopsticks are intended for one purpose or two purposes only. I guess maybe four purposes only. Lifting ships and boosters and catching ships and boosters. That is all. They are not cranes. They're not intended to be used as cranes. There's nothing on them to allow them to be used as a crane. So, yeah, that's the reasoning for that. I suppose it could be a good idea to enable them to do something like that, just in case. But the chances of that happening are slim to none, especially considering that we are expecting the hot stage rings to be integrated directly onto the boosters in the future. So there will be no reason to ever remove them once those V3 boosters come out. You'll never remove those hot stage rings. So yeah, that is the reasoning for that. I was just double checking if there was any follow-up questions on that, but I don't see any. And I did miss one thing at the beginning of the show. It is Astro Joe's birthday. Am I correct?
Yeah, it was yesterday, but thank you very much.
Yeah, happy birthday. I don't know how I missed
Happy
that.
birthday.
Yeah, I appreciate it, buddy. No worries.
Wait, so was the new microphone a gift to yourself or what?
Actually, Matt sent it to me.
Okay, awesome. Well, you sound great.
Awesome, appreciate that.
All right, everybody. With that, I will go ahead and move us over to the Massies. We do have more stuff we'll cover at the launch site, obviously, when we get back to here. But I'll go ahead and start us off over at Massies, where we do have a lot of updates here. So Ship 35 performed its second static fire this week, and for the most part, everything seemed to go pretty well. SpaceX did post a really good video of that. And one of the things, let me see, actually, I wasn't prepared for this, but let me see if I can bring up a comparison that I made. Oh, perfect. So this is actually a comparison of ship 34 versus ship 35. I'll turn the volume down here. So I clipped these so that it only showed the engine bay camera, or not the engine bay camera, but the test stand camera. So one of the things that I noticed here, and this is a little bit deceiving, number one, they actually did something to reinforce the camera for the test stand. So you can see that it's a lot less shaky. It's way more stabilized. But in general, I would say the actual static fire itself looks a lot cleaner. There's a lot less just steam in this area. I think that's steam. That's steam, right?
Yeah, it's the coming down off the ice.
I could slow this down. I don't know if I can slow this down. Yeah, sorry. It keeps going to that. Oh, there we go. Playback speed. Let's go half. Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, it's the ice coming down and vaporizing. And it also looks like they swapped the camera out with a high dynamic range camera, as well as fixing the mount.
Oh, so you think that the entire camera is new?
Yeah.
Yeah, this is really interesting. That just the pulsing that I'm seeing in the RVAC engines was one of the biggest things I was trying to compare. But with the, it's not really easy to do that kind of comparison because of the difference in cameras here. But yeah, like I said, everything seemed to go well for the most part. However, after Ship 35 returned to the build site, we did spot I think it was actually the Ring Watchers who spotted a Raptor leaving Megabay 2. So as far as we know, Ship 35 has had at least one Raptor removed, and given how tall it was more than likely an RVAC. So for whatever reason, they did end up swapping out an RVAC on Ship 35. So that's a bit interesting. Number one, interesting that SpaceX seemed to, the fact that they even posted that video usually is an indicator that everything went well. But now that they've swapped that engine out, the question is whether or not it returns to do at least a spin prime test. I can't remember. There's been so many engine swaps. I can't remember if they've ever done an engine swap on a ship without at least doing a spin prime test after. So that will be the big question, is whether or not they need to do another test of some sort on that ship once they finish swapping out that engine.
They
Alex, do you know
probably
if they've
have
done a.
I don't. I think there might have been one that they didn't do a spin prime or anything, but I forgot which ship it was. And the other thing, if they're going to, they need to schedule the transport, since with a holiday weekend next week, it pretty much impacts their ability to move anything for a week.
Right. Yeah, I did see somebody in the chat say steam is clear, vapor is visible. Yes and no. That's not necessarily true. There's a difference between dry and wet steam. So steam is definitely visible. I think anybody who's ever, I mean, we've all seen steam before.
Yeah.
So yeah, continuing on, we do have some other updates as far as the test stands being constructed for the V3 boosters. They are making some great progress with that. I don't know if we should even start there or if we should go with. Well, I don't have any pictures of. I wanted to talk about the test tank first, but I don't think I have any pictures ready for that as far as looking at the bottom of it. And I'm not even sure if anybody who all posted it on X. I know for sure that that Jack Bayer not sure if
Mhm.
um, Starship Gazer posted one or not.
I don't think he
If
did.
somebody is able to send an image of that, that would be very helpful, though. Yeah, so Test Tank 17 is now at the launch site, Massey's, and it actually is very, very interesting. I'd say one of the more interesting test tanks we've seen. Lots of updates to the booster for V3, which are a lot of it is really centered around enabling it to survive the reentry and landing burn without a heat shield. So there's a lot of stuff that they did to the bottom of this in order to allow it to do that. And we also see a lot of new things as far as the engine positioning goes, which we can actually see a little bit when we just look at the new test stand. So we'll jump around a little bit here, but this is the test stand right here. And actually, I'm going to start with this image because during this flyover, they were actually doing some install work, which, as you can see here, they were lifting into position the I guess I want to call them pedestals. They're not really pedestals, but basically part of the clamping arms for the booster. And if I go back to that other image, you can see that by the time Mauricio turned around, they had 2 more of them installed. So these are basically what those clamps will rest on top of. So you can see they were down here installing those, and they were actually making pretty good progress with this. I'm surprised how fast they're moving, just because of the fact that they have to install these massive clevis pins in order to attach these. So you can see these clevis pins down here, which from this altitude, they don't look that big, but they're extremely large. Because this is a
The person.
4.5. Say that again?
Oh, there's that person right directly behind the pallet.
Oh,
Which is
yeah. So what would you estimate these at? I mean, they're at least, I would say probably 150 pounds, maybe.
at least, yeah.
Yeah. But I guess with him standing there, they don't look as big as you would think. But yeah, still fairly heavy. And I guess with 2 people, it should be fairly easy to just push those through. I'm sure they have some sort of machine to help push those through, like some sort of press down there. You can see the other clevis pins down here. But yeah, they're down there. I'm curious why they're wearing Tyvek suits for this. But especially on a pretty warm day down there, seems like overkill for a job like this.
Yeah, there shouldn't be any reason for needing to be in the spacesuits, the bunny suits.
Yeah. But this is pretty cool though, just to see this new test stand as it's coming together, because it's a lot simpler, I guess, in some ways than the one for the version 1, version 2 boosters. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot less going on with the actual test stand. So I would imagine at this point, given how fast they're moving, they probably have at least half of them installed, if not more. There was a good pile of them over here, and I didn't really see many more other than that. And sorry, let me put myself in streamer mode right here because I got some background noises coming through. Yeah, I only saw 7 of them total. I'm assuming they probably, easily had more of them delivered by now. But yeah, making good progress with getting this ready for that first booster, which I believe we may have seen the first sections of Booster 18 this week. The first ring section moved into Megabay 1, so it seems like they're progressing with assembly of that booster while they're still doing testing on the actual test tank. So that's interesting. I'm always hoping that one day they'll actually finish testing first before they actually start assembling the vehicle, but I guess I don't know, just don't have time for that.
They'll call it a Pathfinder and be done with it.
Yeah. So one of the interesting things about this, though, is the positioning for the 3 center engines has changed a little bit. And I don't know if we have an angle that's going to show this because of that umbrella this week. Yeah, it's a little bit difficult to show this. Yeah, but you can kind of see. Actually, yeah, I don't really have a way of showing this here. I do have a render from Nick from the ring washers, so I will attempt to gather that. In the meantime, Alex, did you have anything else you wanted to say about this while I search for that?
I was looking for last week's photo because there was one that had a pretty good overhead shot of this, but next render would be much better.
Yeah, and I actually have one right here. Just trying to decide which one I want to actually use because there's a few pretty good ones. So this one right here kind of shows the. Man, Discord really changed the way that they. There we go. So this is basically what the bottom of that test tank looks like. And I guess it's a bit difficult to really see what's going on here as far as the positioning goes. But these are the three center engines right here. And overall, a lot of very interesting things going on with the actual redesign. So for one, there's way more holes in this structure. And it seems like there's also a very large false ceiling that goes below the dome. So this is not the actual dome of the tank, it's above this, and they have little sleeves for each of these holes, which the big holes actually, sorry, let me double check this here. So just looking at like this one right here, so you have the locks. This is like the main mounting point or where the locks comes through. This is methane, and then you have two of the TVC penetrations right here. And so same thing right here, TVC, locks, methane. Yeah, very, very interesting the way that this is developing. And on the outside, there's only two because obviously there's no TVC on the outer 20 engines. But yeah, very interesting. The other thing is that this actually has some sort of metallic TPS tiles on the actual dome right here. And definitely appears that they're doing everything they can to make sure that this will be able to withstand that heating. So they've already upgraded the engines so that they have basically active cooling. And so ideally the engine should be able to withstand that heating from reentry, but they need to make sure that the false sealing of that booster is able to withstand it as well. So lots of interesting things going on there. And I would show more of Nick's renders, but I need to clear that with them first before I do that. And sorry, Alex, were you saying something else about the test stand?
No, it was everything that Nick's render kind of showed.
Yeah.
They haven't, yeah. I think the only thing on the stand is that the Cutie is on the opposites. Cuties are on the opposite side.
So they're on this side?
Yeah. Because that's Z minus on that side.
Yeah, so I guess we were initially thinking they were going to be on this side, right?
Yeah. And the assumption is now that there's some sort of chines or something that's blocking out part of the walkway.
Yeah, that's interesting because the way that the chines are right now, they wouldn't go anywhere near that low to actually require this. Like you should be able to move around them. But yeah, that's interesting. So this part will be on this side, basically.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And duties are on this side.
Correct. Which seems counterintuitive. But...
Yep. Trying to grab another image of the actual test stand area. So they still have not actually. We haven't seen any signs of the actual QDs yet. So that's a big thing we're waiting to see. They do have the. I think they started this. I don't know if it was last week or the week before, but they have started running the new pipes over to this area. So they disconnected everything over here. They still need to remove this structure at some point. But yeah, we're waiting on them to basically start adding those QDs up into these platforms. Yeah, exciting times with the boosters. I'm, definitely a fan of the boosters a little bit more than the ships. It's kind of evening out now a little bit just because there's been so much drama with the ships lately. But yeah, I still have been far more excited for boosters than ships at this point. So really exciting to see them start this testing, and a lot going on with this actual test structure as well too. Alex, did you want to talk about some of this?
It's just kind of wild right now. All the various actuators they put on it. So we have the Ring of 5 there, and we don't have a. There is an adapter plate that takes both of the pistons on the side, but it doesn't look like they've connected them yet.
So it's two pistons,
Right.
two actuators going into one.
There's
basically 2-to-1.
there's a plate that sits on it with the center hole for the rod coming out. Yeah, and there's
That's it?
two holes. Yeah, so they can torque the rod, I think.
Oh, yeah. So it kind of allows them to. Well, actually, that's a little bit confusing. Why would you
So you
want to do
can.
that?
I don't know. It looks like, but that's the only reason that to add differential force that way that I could come up with.
You think maybe there's a chance it's just for stability?
I mean, it could be something as simple as that.
Yeah, I think that makes a little bit more sense than actually because you can apply that torque to the landing tank without doing differential pressure on these, just because you have, what is it, 5? Is it 6 of them?
No, there's 5 of them, but it's
5. Yeah.
yeah, and it's just it's a curious way that they're connecting this so far. And
Yeah.
then the top hat, they're still kitting it out. Where's it hiding? Yeah,
Are they actually
pretty much.
making any changes to the top hat?
They painted it, and now they need to install the cylinders for however they're going to support it.
These
Yeah,
actually these are these for the top though?
that's a good question because they have 2 different mechanisms for. They have the. I thought those were for the top though. I could be mistaken.
Yeah, these are interesting. These wheels on the side of them. It almost looks like there's supposed to be I would say a rope going across it, but that wouldn't work with the
Mm-hmm.
actuator, the piston out there.
Yeah, that is a curious end.
Yeah, so we're still waiting for them to actually begin testing on this. These are the long rods that go from the top of the cap down to the actuators on the at the bottom of the stand. Um, and they have they added anything else onto this?
No, not yet. They've connected some of the tanks, like that valve assembly on the left is hooked up. It looks like it's a vent for that tank.
Are you sure that's a vent, or is that just the prime up line?
I don't see a feed to it, and it has one of the exhaust ends.
Yeah, good point. Where is the actual supply? Okay, it's down here to fill the tank.
Those, yeah. I don't think you could see the stand-in cuties from this angle, but that one is definitely heading up too.
So this
Yeah.
does look like they will be filling both top and bottom tanks then?
They took the top vent off, but more than likely, because at the top of the tank there was a pipes that they took off. So yeah,
Mhm.
it has a capability of doing it.
Yeah, this is super interesting. I would not mind being able to actually walk through this just to like see the actual test stand because it's pretty impressive.
Yeah, I think there's one of the angles that has a very good view of the aft clamps. How's there? Maybe it's this one. Just
Let's see, there may be a better one right here. No, that's not going to do it. And that one doesn't have the right lighting either. The one that was on may have been the best one right here.
Yeah.
So yeah, you can see the clamps the way they roll into this little housing right there. This one almost doesn't look like it's engaged.
No, it doesn't. I don't think all of them are engaged yet.
Okay. Yeah, very interesting. I really like the new clamp design a lot.
Can opener.
That was one of the other really cool things actually from the test tank that we saw is it actually sits on these basically like ball joints basically. So these are used to actually align the booster. So I think this may be how they get rid of those alignment pins. Is by having these little ball joints on the bottom right here. So basically, it'll slot into position on top of those. So that'll be very interesting if they're able to actually get rid of the alignment pins by using these.
And it should also help with the clamp alignment as well, since it's going to be just sitting on essentially a ball bearing, so point load.
Right. Elsewhere in Massey's, actually, I'm not really sure if there's too much else going on in Massey's. We're still waiting on them to install these new tanks. They're not making really any progress on that yet. Is there anything else that I missed in Massey's?
No, there's no sign for the trench looks fine from the static fire, but I think we knew that after last week.
Yeah.
It's all blurred together.
Yeah, for sure. I guess before we move on, Astro Joe, do we have any questions from Massey's?
Indeed, I have one, but I want to thank Phil for a £2 super chat saying, Happy birthday, Astro Joe. Enjoy your day. Thank you very much, Phil. And Drew and R for gifting 5 memberships. Much appreciated for the support, y'all. I do have a question from Six String Simpleton. Can we expect a test to failure on Test Tank 17? Would we ever see one again?
I doubt it. I mean, the cage definitely allows for that, I would say, as far as just how reinforced it is. But I think that would cause damage to a lot of the components here, and they probably would not want that to happen. I think all tests to failure now happen at McGregor, and it's not with large components like this. It's with the smaller components, like the landing tank, for example. So I don't think there's necessarily a need for a test of failure anymore. What do you think, Alex?
So it's not likely. Just from once they're doing all the tests of the ring welds every now and then. So I think it's more of a QC issue rather than going to failure. Just hitting operational pressures and whatever overhead they have built in.
Right.
Yeah, I think you're spot on there. So, yeah, cool. My question's queue is clear.
Oh, wow. Kind of surprising. Alrighty. Well, in that case,
everybody's chomping to move to the launch site.
The launch mount. Yeah, of course. So over at Sanchez, lots of interesting developments over here as well. I'll go ahead and start us over on the. Is this south or south side? West side? One of the two. Yeah. So they got a lot going on down here. Obviously, with the launch mount being gone, they've cleared up a little bit of space They've still got all of this chilling down here because eventually they will start another launch mount for Pad B, and it'll be in the air whether or not there will be a third one, but that's a discussion for later in the episode. In the meantime, there are these other two components down here, which we've touched on, I think, last week. And I don't know if we have any updated ideas on what these may be. I'm kind of assuming they're related to the QD, but I'm not certain on that. What do you think?
I think they're the cuties. They're about the right size, and if you see various ground shots, you can kind of see where all the main plumbing runs would be managed through there.
So, do you think that these are each of these are for one for each QD, or that they're still waiting on two more of these?
Now, one for each QD.
Okay. Yeah, this is going to be very interesting. But these are also there's other components down here which also seem to be related to the QDs as far as what we thought. Man, let me try and find those really quick. I think maybe in this area.
Yeah.
These right here.
Yeah, those are, we suspect, part of the mounting mechanism.
Yeah, I'm just wondering how that would work with these. They don't really.
If the arms come up, if that's the bottom, and the top, the way they're oriented, there's rods that could connect them, or basically arms.
Here.
Yeah, and then there's some holes on the front of them as well. I think,
Right here.
yeah. I'm a bit perplexed, but some of the modelers have some solutions that look curious.
I haven't actually seen any yet.
I think Kiwi has one.
Okay. Yeah, that's going to be very interesting to see how that actually turns out. I was just looking right here to see if I could find one of those really quick, but I don't see them, so we're gonna have to wait for that. In the meantime, Alex, just for my own curiosity, do you have any idea what these are for? Are these tank farm related?
I believe those are the blocks and methane for inside the gantries. Basically the last control and for fill. Because you can see on the tower where the ship cuties are, they have the basket strainers and these valve assemblies up there as well.
Is there any chance this may go on the QD arm instead?
It could, but probably it'd be well shielded. Because it looks like the inlet is on the one on the left is facing down.
This one? Or sorry, this one?
Yeah. It's where they've completed the bypass.
Yeah, this is interesting. So I'm going to try and get another angle of this really quick. And there are a ton of pictures, as always, so sometimes difficult to find exactly what I'm looking for, but y'all can see the thumbnails on the bottom of the screen here and get an idea of exactly how many images there are to search through. And there we go. Okay, yeah. So you think maybe this is the lower, whichever one's coming from the bottom of the trench?
Yeah, both of them come up from the bottom from the lower level.
Right. So, yeah, okay, so they need to add that elbow onto this one still?
Yeah, it's down by the ship Cutie.
Right. So it looks like you have fill drain. Sorry, this is fill drain and then pre-press right back here.
That one, it loops back into the propellant line. If you look on the one on the left, you have the two valves, and then it's valve assemblies at the end, right there. There's two of the actuators, and if you look at the one on the right, it just loops back and goes back into the pressure balance or the bypass.
So possibly this is fill and that's drain.
No, it's all fill drain, because like one of the basket strainers is for fill, one of them's for draining. Yeah, I believe it's set up for that.
Are you sure it's not just redundant valve or redundant strainers?
They've then this would only be a one way, because when you'd backflow it, you'd
Oh,
risk.
right.
I mean, you can flush them for cleaning, but I don't know.
Yeah, that makes
You
sense.
generally would. Yeah.
Very interesting. Very interesting. Yeah, curious that the valve's not on the opposite side though, if that's the case.
Yeah, they have these all over the place. I think I'm trying to think how they did the ones at the Locks farm. They had actually, I think, 4 or 6 valves.
Yeah, this is going to be interesting to see the way this lines up. I'm curious why that you would want to bypass that though. That smaller line.
Security. In case
Yeah,
one of the
definitely gonna have
actuators
to.
fair.
I hope we get some good images of this when it rolls, just so we can actually see the full assembly. I'm sure we probably have some images that show it a little bit better, but yeah, this is definitely some of the smaller details that us GSE nerds care about. So I'll go ahead and move us on. So the first V3 booster test stand still being worked on. Haven't really seen a ton of progress with this yet. So we won't spend too much time on that. But elsewhere down here, we do have some more workstations being completed for the Star Factory. So we got one right here, a turntable right here. Actually, really quick, do you have any idea what this one's for? I was thinking possibly nose cone related, but it's really weird.
I was thinking shift F, but that's just because of 3.
Oh,
Or
yeah,
it's,
good point. We did talk about that previously, didn't we?
I think so.
Yeah.
Days are a blur.
Yes, they are. And this is the second one, right? Because they already finished one of these.
Yeah, one of them went in 2 weeks or within the last 2 weeks.
Yeah, and unfortunately, we didn't get to see that roll by the camera, right? Because it had to go in through the backside.
Yeah, don't want to talk about it. It's still sad.
Yeah, we will. We'll get to that here shortly. Then we have another workstation down here, which possibly for nose cones as well.
Yeah, this was the tall one. Because at first it's almost vaguely looked like an engine stand, but no, I don't. I think nose cone's the better. So it looks, yeah, nose cone. I think you're right.
Yeah, and we did see a bunch of other components come in for this. I don't think they're in this image. There were some big components on this trailer right here, but it's difficult to, with them being covered up, know whether or not they're actually related to this. What else do we got down here? So we are still waiting on them to begin moving all of these hold down arms to the launch site. So we have, I think, almost all of them on site already. This is 7 right here. And then there are 3, so 10 and
2 more.
12. So with 4 already installed, I think maybe we're missing 4. And there's a possibility, I would say there's a possibility they're under here, but I don't think you'd get them under there. So
Nah, it looks like they're just throwing a tarp over them when they're cleaning them up.
yeah. Very interesting though over here that I noticed this morning. Alex, maybe you have an opinion on these. I think this may be the outer shielding for the gantry.
That's. I mean, at first I was thinking it might be Cutie related, but it also works pretty well for the lower levels of the Gantry.
Yeah, I'm just gonna go look at that really quick.
Like the first floor. That's a,
Yeah, I'm trying to find one that looks at it straight on. This might be as good as we can get right here. Yeah, I mean, these are basically all straight panels. I don't really see. It would have to be on this side over here where those would go, but I don't really see, now that I'm looking at it, how that would work out.
yeah, no, they're probably Cutie. The only place they would sort of fit is the very top, but they don't look like they're the right size.
No.
So yeah, they're probably hanging off the right side. The
That would be interesting. Because these are pretty large,
yes, they are.
kind of. Yeah. Huh. And the color's a little curious because it's not the same color as anything else on the launch mount. So, um, very interesting to see what this is when it actually starts to become a little bit more identifiable.
Yeah, it reminds me of the Cutie hood. Just
Jeez, that would be a massive Cutie hood if that was the case.
right.
But that would be a good sign, just how much protection they would be installing on that if that was the case. So, yeah, gonna have to keep our eyes on that. What else do we have at Sanchez?
uh, no real progress on the ship Cutie arm. No sign of its ends yet.
Yeah, yeah, very curious why they're waiting so long for this. I mean, one of the things that obviously makes sense is that they don't have the actual QD plate itself yet, so we're waiting on um, probably like 5 of those. So 3 for Megabay 2, 1 for the static fire test stand, the cryo station, and the tower. So I guess 6 of them that we're waiting on. So yeah, that's one of the last components that it appears is going to be showing up, but they don't have any of that piping for this yet installed. So another week, no progress.
Yeah, it's going to be the last thing to install.
Yeah. What else do we got down here?
I think that's everything on this side.
Yeah. So really quickly, I'm going to try and find a good angle to talk about this next part. The part that Alex said he was not happy with. This may be a good one right here. Oh, actually, that was perfect. So yeah, we do have with the construction going on for the Gigabay, they are no longer able to move things through that yard, which we'll see a little bit here shortly. So everything has basically been moving through Sanchez. So they upgraded this road right here to be able to basically take the weight of boosters specifically. And so the path is basically through here and then down through here, and I'm not sure where it goes after that. I think it comes down through here.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they basically have to cut through Sanchez in order to get out of here, and that is very interesting. It's such a long path to get out. But yeah, that's basically kind of temporary right now because they're still working on this road right here. So that path will get a little bit shorter once this is completed. They're basically installing some trenching alongside of this, and I really do hope I have a better angle of that. This kind of shows it a little bit. Yeah, so they got all of these culverts right here, and they're basically going to be installing those down here. I can't tell if it's going on the left or right side because they do have these wall supports for trenches down here. But yeah, so they got to do a little bit of groundwork first before they can actually finish building that road. But once that's completed, that'll be the new path for boosters and ships leaving the launch site or leaving the build site. Yeah, it's like a Where's Waldo trying to find a good image to show all these things properly. Probably a build site image that I'm looking for. But I guess on that note, actually hold on. Was there some updates with the um, transports? Is it for the booster down here?
I thought
know
they
they were
just
removing
removed.
some.
Oh, there's just an abundance of scaffolding building up at the base of this.
Yeah, very curious. I wouldn't think they're like disassembling anything, not with the booster on there. Like you'd probably have to scrap it first in order to start really doing anything. Um, so that's kind of curious.
Hopefully it's not one of their scaffold towers.
Right.
Or that's a good sign because they're going to reinforce it.
Yeah. It would be interesting actually I mean, I highly doubt they would do this, but to alter this stand so that it could be used for V3 boosters, but I just don't see that happening. It'll get scrapped once they decide to eventually scrap this, possibly. I'm still on the fence whether or not that'll happen because I imagine they may want to keep these two for quite a while. But the jury's still out on that one. Cool. I will go ahead and move us over to the build site in that case, unless we have some questions, Astro Joe.
Yeah, I do have a couple I want to attend to, but I want to thank Daniel Hogman for gifting 5 memberships first. Thanks for that support, Daniel. Question from Crane Man. Are those Cutie parts on the ground not hinges?
I'm guessing talking about these.
That's what I'm assuming.
All right, he's asking if they're Cutie parts instead of hinges.
Or hinges instead of QD ports. Because two U-shaped ones look like
Could lock in right here.
or
Or
on
here.
the, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, QDs are going to have hinges as well. So that could be both the same thing. One of those things we're still waiting on seeing, but yeah, it's definitely a possibility.
I'm waiting for the interesting linkage they have under the hood.
Yeah. Sorry, I keep getting distracted by these because now I'm like looking at the shape, trying to figure out exactly where those go.
Welcome to my evening yesterday.
Were you like searching around trying to find places where they fit?
Yeah, and it's like those
Did you come up
passageways.
with anything?
No,
Okay.
very large QDs, which doesn't feel right to me, but
No. Cool. Was that the only question we had?
Joe?
Maybe we lost Joe there.
Yep.
All right. Well, actually, it looks like Joe disappeared. So, yeah, maybe he'll be back. Maybe not. We'll see. I guess in the meantime, I will go ahead and move us over to the build site. We'll see if Joe returns. Maybe lost a signal right there. Oh, there he goes. What's up, Joe?
All right, I think I'm back. Internet decided to bounce on me right at the end of that last question.
All good.
So yeah, I had to go and reboot the router. I am back now. Okay, so did we address that question from Kramer?
Yes, we did.
Okay, cool. Question from Brady G111. I saw a guy out surveying the spot in front of High Bay yesterday. Will they be starting the Gigabay pilings soon?
Yeah, I suppose we're about to get to that here in a second. Any Sanchez questions?
Yeah, hold on a second. Sorting through some that are not Sanchez related. From Matt, are there any known plans to replace the final production tent?
Well, I wouldn't necessarily call it I guess it is a production tent. It's the inventory tent. I don't think so yet. This is one of those things that I feel like would probably be best to include inside of the Star Factory, because a majority of these components end up going into the Star Factory. There are a lot of things out in the yard that are for that are launch site related, but yeah, I don't think that this will be integrated into the Star Factory because it would just like take up their production space. So I imagine this will just stay here, and however they transport it over there, they'll continue to do that.
All right. Another question from Crane Man. Since the counterweight tray from the LR 11,000 is at Sanchez, is that a sign it will be assembled for at least the start of Gigabay?
My
Um,
understanding is they were having some transport availability because they're moving those with the yard truck. So you have the Stinger and both weight trays, I believe.
yeah.
All right, very well. I want to thank Booster 1058 Cashew Crew for gifting a membership as well, and we are clear for Sanchez questions.
Awesome. Awesome. Great. Cool. I will go ahead and move us over to the build site then. So, um, you can see they are still slowly making progress on High Bay. We have been kind of curious when this will stop, if they will actually just, knock over the whole structure like they did with the mid bay. But I don't know. It's kind of looking to me like that's not going to happen at this point. Um, eh, they could drop it right here and it would fall not even too far over in this direction if they wanted to, but it seems like maybe they're not willing to do that. I guess if you're already gotten more than half of it disassembled this way, you may as well continue doing that. There doesn't seem to be a huge rush. And in the meantime, they probably are ready to start preparing the ground over here for those CFA pilings for the Gigabay. So another angle right here, we can see that uh, the wedge on the front of the Star Factory has been fully removed. And now that they've done that, they've removed more of the concrete and kind of framed out most of the area where that Gigabay is going to be. So I think there's still a question on whether or not it's going to actually touch the Star Factory. But again, I don't think that's the case because you just want to maintain access to that door up here on the front of the factory. There's got to be an angle of this where I can actually see that. Here. Yeah. So you want to be able to allow ship nose cone sections and test tanks, whatever, to move out of this area right here. So I have my doubts on whether or not we'll actually see the factory or the Gigabay come up all the way to this. And I truly, truly hope we don't. If this is as far as it goes, that will be awesome because this would be the perfect amount of space right here for the new driveway. You can see the width of this one, so it's almost slightly wider than necessary. But yeah, this would be the perfect amount of space. It doesn't give them a lot of room for like staging things in front of the building, but that's not really a huge deal. And at the end of the day, I don't think the even if this is the outline right here, I don't think it'll come all the way up to this. I think they're just clearing extra space. So I imagine it might come at least up to like here. But I do think we'll probably see them hopefully start doing CFA piles soon. But there is probably a good chance they want to finish demolishing high bay before they start that.
I think they could,
What are your thoughts?
when they're done drilling at the launch site, Malcolm with the same company they used to drill for Megabay 2 and the Florida stuff. So more than likely that rig will end up here.
Yeah.
I'm torn if it's going to be connected or not, just because when they're building the factory, they would leave little strips like that for delivery trucks.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, because you don't want to have to drive through the bays to deliver things on this side of the building. I mean, you can deliver on this side, but I don't think I don't think they want that to be their only delivery point.
Yeah. Well, I have selfish reasons for not connecting them.
Yeah, I mean, if they do connect it, that'll be a very sad day because that'll just mean we won't see components until they roll out fully stacked. So, like for HLS, for example, like we won't even see that. All of a sudden, it'll just come out of the bay one day, and we'll be like, "Oh wow, didn't even realize they were building that right now." So, really hoping that does not happen. But on that note, I think there's a small chance that by the time this section of the building's done, we may see the first HLS prototype. Because they should be getting close to needing to start that soon, I imagine.
Yeah,
On that note, there's a chance they're already working on it. So
well, I mean, the Pathfinder they had last week for the propellant or tanker.
right, yeah, good point. That could very well. I mean, that'll be interesting to know whether or not that is for a tanker or if it is for HLS. I mean, I imagine it could be either or. So
Yeah, they're needed for both.
one thing that was interesting going on the backside of the Megabay 2 is new platforms being constructed down here. What are your thoughts on these, Alex? I was thinking maybe these are for Megabay 1.
I think they're for one as well. They've been, I think, pulling some of the stuff out and retooling for
B3 boosters.
B3, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting that they would need to redo the whole walkways, but I guess that might be faster to just rip everything out and then install the new stuff.
Yeah, it's also less disruptive.
Yeah. I mean, this is all, it looks like all of this, and they're still delivering more components. You can see they're offloading right here. So, yeah, these may be the first workstations for that. And we haven't gotten a shot for quite a while actually looking in here while the door is fully open. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see which station they actually remove first. I imagine it might be that middle one, just because that'd be the easiest to get to. But that's just a speculation right there.
Yeah, there's quite a bit of a booster backlog.
Yeah. But I mean, they're going to need that pretty soon now that booster 18 is already started assembly. So I'm not sure where those components are, if they're on the right side or the left side, but I imagine they're probably on the right side, right? Because they start with the LOX tank first, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So left side then? I think methane tank's
so.
on the right side. Yeah.
Now I'm confused. What else is new?
Yeah, they seem to have done some new stuff down here with the actual turntable as well too. So there's some more platforms up here. I don't know if there's a walkway going all the way around. Honestly, this could
Yeah,
be. Have you seen? Have we seen this before? Or is this new?
I don't recall seeing it. I've always wondered why they don't wrap the stacking stations more.
Yeah, it would be nice to actually get a flyover where the doors are actually fully open, but to do that, it would basically have to be when they're moving a booster in or out because they don't really open it too often.
No.
Cool. Anything else build site area?
Yeah, that's about it. There's just slow demo.
Yeah. Exciting times, but also sad. All right, moving over to the Star Factory. Um, Honestly, I'm not really sure if there's anything to talk about in Star Factory other than um, we do have some aft flaps down here and a forward flap as well. So these are for ship 36 and 37.
Yep.
And I mean, I think we're still expecting this tent to go away soon. Are there any more signs of that?
No, it's been slow progress on this side, or at least exterior progress.
Yeah. I'm gonna like go back through images to see if there's ever not been water up here.
I don't think there's ever been.
Not water.
Yeah.
It's literally never evaporates. Let's see. On the front side of the factory, they do the same pile has kind of been sitting here. I think it grows and then they pull stuff from here all the time. But with every workstation that gets completed at Sanchez, they also end up installing additional cranes. So these are pedestal cranes down here that end up going into those workstations. I think these are some more turntables down here. I don't know if these are new ones or old ones. That they look new.
Yeah. It's newest stuff will look here.
Yeah. What is this on top?
It's a bunch of the stiffening rings just stacked.
Oh, okay. Just stacked up there.
Yeah.
We did see some interesting things this week. There was a lot of smoke coming out of the Star Factory at one point, and it looked like it was basically coming from this area right here. So I don't know if we know for sure, but we're thinking maybe there's a kitchen down here or something like that. And they're maybe just firing everything up for the first time. There was quite a bit of smoke coming out of there.
Yeah. I think when they're installing it, some of the ground shots, it was really looked like a commercial kitchen was going in
Mm-hmm.
because that whole
Yeah,
section is a bit of a mystery.
agreed. um, Elsewhere, they are making some good progress with the apartment building down here. I'm probably just going to go ahead and grab a different image of this. So it looks like they've finished up drilling with the CFA piles, I think.
Yeah, the rig left, I think, early yesterday.
Okay. Yeah, so now they're actually forming out the foundation, as y'all can see here. Nothing too exciting, but interesting to see the progress on that. And in the village, I believe I counted this morning, there was like 17 lots still available that haven't been filled yet. So yeah, they're making good progress filling up this village. It's looking nicer every single day. Um, they also started to clear more space back here. It looks like for the well, actually, I guess we're not necessarily sure if we're expecting a rec center here anymore or not. But looks like that pool is fully open, as we mentioned previously. Yeah, nice neighborhood going on down here. This looks like another apartment building, possibly.
They have triplex or duplex.
Yeah. And then these two this one's nearing completion. They're starting on this one right now too. So really, pretty much every available lot is being covered with housing. So pretty awesome to see that. I'm sure SpaceX employees enjoy that as well too. Just having as more places open, more people are able to move into the village and not have to travel from Brownsville or Port Isabel or wherever. So this makes things a lot more convenient for them. Alrighty. Unless there's anything else, I may go ahead and move us over to the launch site. Astro Joe?
Yeah, well, Vix is in chat, and you know what that means. We got a bunch of gifted donations, and not a single one has proper aim just yet. Booster 1058, Cashew Crew with 5 gifted memberships, Andy Alder with 1, Mighty Don Don gifting 10, and Todd Bernal, our very own this guy, 5 gifted memberships trying to aim at Vix. Thank you all for that. And a question from Kai Nessel. Are the false ceiling on Block 3 boosters just repurposed E-domes on a Gazer video, Starship Gazer video of booster 18.1? It looked like similar to an E-dome. What do you guys think?
Guessing he's talking about 17. No, I don't think so. It's very, very different from an E-dome. There's no it's milled instead of how do they the E-domes are basically similar to regular domes as far as like being constructed of triangular panels, curved panels.
Stretch
And this
formed.
is very, very different from that. It's like a shield.
Right, not stretch formed, but milled, right?
Yeah, and it's probably way thicker, if I had to guess.
It's much closer to a thrust puck than it is to a dome.
Yeah.
Gotcha. All right. Daniel Hogman with a question. Wouldn't you need an HLS design nailed down before you design a tanker, or could they be working on both concurrently?
Well, HLS is going to require a lot more work just because there's so much interior stuff that goes on with that. So I wouldn't be surprised if it starts long before the tanker variant. But yeah, I imagine they probably need to be developed concurrently, considering they're both for the same purpose.
Yeah, for sure. Agreed. Final question I have is from Leo. I'd assume refueling hardware we saw was the receiving side, which would likely be for every ship except the tankers. What are your opinions there?
Yeah, I'm not sure on that one, honestly. I haven't looked at that too closely. Do you have any opinions, Alex?
No, I would assume for refuel, the tanker will be a bit of a abomination.
Yeah, I did want to actually see if I could pull up a um, image of that. I may be able to just do a quick search on X and find it really quick, but yeah,
It's all
I don't
kind
think
of
I'm going
just
to
a
be able.
wait and see for us.
Yeah, for sure. Um, yeah, I was hoping that I was going to be able to just quickly find this, but sometimes I usually go to Vix's account for this because she probably posts more than anybody else at this point. Um, and with that said, her timeline is just so deep that when you try to find little things like this, it becomes very difficult. So yeah. Oh well, we do at least have a cool image right here that we can see um, the bottom of test tank 17. So these are those tiles that I was mentioning earlier, and you could see that they're basically on the dome section of this. And there's some tiles, I think, between here as well too, between the RVAC mounts. But yeah, this is pretty cool the way this looks right now. And I'm gonna keep searching on the side over here while we go to the launch site. Maybe I'll find some other things worth showing as well. So I guess in the meantime, we will go ahead and, like I said, move over to the launch site. Oh, sorry, was that the last question?
Indeed, that was. We are ready for the meat and potatoes of the show.
Cool. I'll go ahead and start us off over at Pad A, where there's less stuff to talk about. As we mentioned at the beginning of the show, Booster 14 was at the launch site. They actually had removed the alignment pins and everything, so they're essentially, in my opinion, got a little bit ahead of themselves and kind of were assuming that it was here to stay until launch day. But like I said, they ended up moving it last night, so we may see those alignment pins come back, which is unfortunate because if those of you who watched my 2-part series on this, which is actually probably going to turn into like a 5-part series, the process of removing those is involves cutting off this little hatch right here and then lifting that alignment pin back in place and then sliding the hoses down through here. So yeah, they're going to have to basically cut that back off and put those alignment pins back on there before Booster 14 comes back out. So that's unfortunate. But yeah, we can see the updated hot stage ring up here, which has, I don't know which angle I can actually see this on.
That one?
Right here. Yeah. So you can see that the vents are still here, but they installed a plate over it. And I'm still a little bit confused on this. Did you have thoughts on why they did that?
None. I mean, there's some theories to protect the raceways, but I wouldn't expect them to get a direct blast.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean it's really curious because I would imagine that the last thing you want is to reduce the amount of volumetric flow rate that you have of gas out of here. But your 2 RVACs are on either side right here, so at least it's not blocking an RVAC position. It's basically blocking where that center engine exits out of. But I don't know. I imagine one possible thing that this could allow is by preventing your gas from moving out in this direction, you're forcing more of it in this direction, which allows you to pass more gas over the grid fins. So that makes it probably a little bit more effective as far as that flip maneuver goes. So I don't know. I doubt they want to increase the aggressiveness of that flip, but that's the only thing I can come up with them why you would want to do that.
Would Since it's asymmetric, the other thing, if it, instead of the grid fins, it would be pushing the ship away just from takeoff from it separating.
Like more back pressure.
One part would have that the part facing the tower would tend to move that way since its pressure's blocked, so everything's flowing out the other ways. So
Right. So it actually would push the booster in this direction.
yeah, it's pushing it out of the way a bit potentially. That's the only
Yeah.
thing I come up with.
Very curious why that's needed because it seems to be the hot staging maneuver seems to be working just fine right now as far as what I can tell. Um, yeah, but on that note, they have been changing it almost every single time, so it is a bit curious why they keep doing that. It's like literally every single launch they do a different maneuver. So it could be that they've tried so many different things to get the performance that they're looking for, and that now they're like, all right, well, let's put this on here. This may finally accomplish what we've been trying to do. So that'll be interesting to see if we notice any differences with that flip maneuver. Cool. So on that note, I'm not sure if there's too much else to talk about in Pad A. There is some interesting stuff going on here, which kind of takes us from both Pad A to Pad B. So they are doing the structural qualification testing on the Chopsticks, which involves filling up those water bags. And so I've always wondered this in the past, and I wonder if they did this on previous tests. but it looks like they actually fill up this retention pond, and then they use this pump and route that water all the way over to pad B. Let me see if I can get a better. I'm just going to go with one of these images.
Yeah, that one's perfect.
Yeah, so it basically goes all the way around the perimeter and then over right below those. So that basically is what they're using to fill those water bags all the way from the other side of the facility. But that is convenient because then you just have one large volume of water and you don't need to offload. You don't need to bring in water trucks and offload them one at a time, essentially. So that is a little bit more convenient, I guess.
And
Yeah,
also, it's probably part rainwater too, so it's definitely not potable.
for sure. For sure. Any other Pad A stuff? I really don't think there's much else to talk about there.
Nah, that's about it.
Cool. Well, in that case, let's see in the chat. What do you guys want to do? Pad B first or tank farm? I would go tank farm, but I'm gonna just see the first like 10 comments in the chat what those say, and then we'll decide from there. But yeah, really excited about this upcoming launch. I don't know if it's been delayed or not. I think it probably has slipped a little bit because obviously with the booster going back to the build site, potentially another spin prime or static fire test, possibly with ship 35. So we're gonna have to wait to see how that turns out. Oh wow, I was not current on the chat. Pad B, of course.
Yeah. Figures.
Cool. Yeah, we'll go with Pad B then.
There's a big square, and that's about it.
Actually, I'm sorry, everybody. I'm going to veto. We're going to do the tank farm first because we could spend a lot of time at Pad B. So, yeah, we'll go ahead and do the tank farm first. I'm sorry. You guys are probably going to get mad at me in the chat, but, you know, these things happen.
Engagements.
Yeah. So lots of stuff going on at Pad B. As always, been making so much progress on it. And it's just, while it's still super, I wouldn't say messy. It's a lot of spaghetti going on down here, but I would say it is fairly well designed, like not fairly well, extremely well. It's just confusing at times, some of the stuff that's going on down here. But each week they keep filling in more things, and it starts to become more clear, some of the stuff that's going on down here. But it's really interesting the way that they are doing all this construction while also testing at the same time. So I could be wrong about this, but it almost seems like they do construction from like 5 a.m. to like 5 p.m. and then they turn it over to testing after that. Would you agree with that, Alex?
Yeah, that's sometimes the time changes a bit, but that's sort of been the cadence they've been doing.
Yeah, so it's mostly on the lock side that testing is going on right now, because the methane side, you can see that they don't have any of the pipes going from the valves over to the pumps yet, and they're also only have 2 pumps installed currently. Well, sorry, 3. They have 5 pumps installed, but only 2 motors installed currently. So most of that testing is all on the lock side of things, where they do have most of the pumps. I think they've been switching some of them out. Looks like they removed one right here.
Yeah, and they're also sending the locks through some of the methane pipes.
Really?
Yeah.
Where?
If right now it has it circling down, and it looks like it's going into one or potentially into one of those 2 tanks below. It's not going through the, yeah. because
Okay.
they connected the ship blocks to a random pipe.
hmm Yeah, and one of the interesting things going on here, like in order to do that testing, they need power. So y'all may remember if you were here a few, I think, man, it was probably a month and a half ago, maybe 2 months, when I mentioned that they had a, I think it was like 1500 kilowatt hour generator that was down in this area, but as they've kind of losing space because they need to at least be able to get this crane in here, they had to remove that, it looks like. So, and I think also they just in general wanted more power. So, what they have done, it seems, is the bunker that's way down here. This is probably a better image. So, this is the control bunker for this Pad A's tank farm. And there is so the power line, incoming power lines, I think, are right here, and then I believe they trenched across here at some point. I'd have to go back and check my diagrams, but I think there was one that came all the way across here, and so what it looks like is that they've tapped into that, and I don't think this is permanent because, well, obviously this part's not permanent because they're basically going above ground with all of these wires. But I'm pretty sure most of this will be powered from this building right here. But it looks like they've gotten all these temporary wires running over to the lock side over here, which allows them to power all of these pumps and pretty much everything else in here that they're doing testing with, pumps, valves, all that stuff. So pretty interesting the way that they've are basically enabling themselves to test this while they're also doing construction, which is vastly different from how Pad A was done. I don't think we saw, or sorry, not Pad A, but the original tank farm. I don't think we saw any testing on it until it was complete, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
So yeah, they're basically. I mean, this makes sense because you don't want to have to figure out that you have issues here. When you're trying to move on to the first launches from Pad B. So they're basically doing this in a way that makes it so that by the time Pad B is ready, the tank farm commissioning will pre-commissioning. Sorry, so there's like 3 steps. There's function testing, pre-commissioning, and commissioning.
Integration.
So basically, yeah. So function testing and pre-commissioning stuff all being completed ahead of time so that by the time Pad B is done, they'll be ready for that final integrated commissioning. So yeah, it's quite a big process going on down here doing all this, and just really impressive the amount of coordination involved in this. I know that, and I say this every episode, I know that these guys are really proud of all their stuff because we see them more active on X than probably any other team down there. So they're really excited about it. One thing that has popped up this week, which I'm interested to see Alex's opinion on it. So one of the things that we mentioned was that all of the venting on the locks side of the tank farm goes into this huge duct right here, which has 2 fans on either side. So blue fan, and it forces all of that those vapors up into the air so that it's not like just enveloping the whole tank farm. But we were assuming they were probably going to do something similar on the methane side, but it appears that is not the case. So right now, all of the vents from the methane kettle boilers, these both are methane kettle boilers, so they come out of the top down here and then go through this manifold, and then they have valves down here because they have to actually manage the pressure, the vapor pressure inside of the kettle boilers. And so there's 3 different valves. I'm guessing they get basically how many valves are open is dependent on the flow rate that you're pushing through there. So the vents are right on top right here and another one on top right there. And really curious what your thoughts on that are, Alex.
Well, it should be producing about twice as much as the previous as Pad A's, so it's curious because that's very close to what the lock side was producing that they started collecting.
Hmm.
So it might just be SpaceX doing their let's see if it works and
Yeah.
upgrade if necessary.
Yeah, I think maybe one of the things that makes it unnecessary to have a ducted vent like this, like a forced air ventilation, is that these are pressurized, whereas this is not. None of these systems are pressurized. So the pressure in on this system is probably high enough to just allow it to shoot straight up without having to really worry about it. Just you know, turning the whole tank farm into a massive fog, like a lake of vapor.
Yeah, now that you mention it, the all the methane uh, nitrogen vents are quite aggressive.
Yes.
Yeah,
The sound that comes out of these is going to be interesting.
and one slight correction, you're right on how that they're hot wiring it from the other side, but I'm not sure if they're using any of those black wires as part of it. I can't tell if those are just cut because they're pulling them, or if they're because previously they pulled some big yellow cables across the way, but it's 6 of one, half a dozen of another. How the power is getting there,
Let
it's
me
just
try
a
and find out better, because it's hard to see whether or not they're going underneath there or not.
yeah, it's
I mean, it looks like they are. Like they're not using all of them, but um, like these will probably be used on the methane side, and these ones are being used on the log side. So they just maybe aren't
yeah,
using these ones right now. That's what it looks like to me.
and they're definitely different lengths cables. So yeah,
Yeah,
and I'm not seeing the yellow ones up top. I saw them at the other side, but it used to be a
yellow.
lot more. There used to be two big yellow cables
Oh,
that
coming from the
yeah,
generator.
and from the other building, the Pad A controller.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Like I said, it's just
Um,
very trivial.
yeah. This
Uh,
is really cool. We're finally kind of getting an idea of how all of this stuff works as far as um, the valves that send it actually to the launch mount and tower. We were kind of wondering how they were going to fit all this stuff in here when these pipes were coming out, going basically this direction towards the wall. So it kind of looks like at this point that everything, the outputs from both these kettle boilers and these ones, basically go onto this rack and then around here and out. So same thing with these; they basically go around this and then through those valves and then over to the launch tower. But yeah, this is getting a lot more completed each week. What is this? Is this liquid oxygen?
that is, yeah. If you look really carefully between the three pipes on the pipeway, you can sort of see it's running a slight diagonal and it's not
Are you talking
connected.
about on here?
Yeah, but going the other direction underneath, you can sort of see it. Yeah, it's a little bit more on the diagonal, but and then it cuts over.
Do I have another view of that? No, I don't think that really helps me see it better.
Actually, right where your
Got it
mouse,
right
yeah,
here.
there. Yep. And then
Yeah,
there's
so that
another
oh, and
one.
then down to here.
Yeah, it stops right around where your cursor is. And then the other two head over that direction as well.
So this one right here comes over. Wait, that looks
Yeah, that's a LOX line.
okay.
And then it'll cut across the probably the big pipe on the pipe rack that isn't hooked up is actually what's going to be connected to that. Yeah, that one.
So down to here.
Yeah, but across to the just to the left of the basket strainer. Yeah.
Right here.
Yeah. And that pipe that's connected currently to the basket strainer is probably temporary for testing
Why do you say that?
because it's hooked up to
Pump?
the ship locks pumps.
Oh, and this is methane.
Yeah, that looks like it's the vapor liquid return.
Interesting.
Yeah, they've been
Yeah,
doing this for testing a lot with the lock side. They're
but so basically this flange this section right here will be swapped out,
yeah,
and then
you know, it'll be
wait,
routed.
that's interesting. So wait, so you're saying this one is supposed to go?
It'll
What
go
about?
across. It'll go back to the pipeway, but it'll be using a different pipe than that
Okay,
one.
gotcha.
Because if you go more to the left and to the valves just before the two tanks, oh no, yeah, right there, those four.
Oh,
Just
so it should go all the way across to here. Is that what you're
it'll
saying?
loop around. There's the two sets of valves in the shadow just above your cursor and to the left. Yeah, yeah, those are where they're combining some of the liquid and the vapor, and then they're pumping it into those tanks.
Right. Okay. Yeah, that makes more sense then.
Yeah,
Interesting. So this valve skid right, or this splitter right here is all for that then?
yeah, that'll be for probably the ship, and I think the first one's a booster.
Booster ship
No,
ship.
booster is one that's almost completely done with all the actuators and where your mouse is going to be shipped.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah,
Yeah, this is really cool. Like I would imagine like trying to make like a diagram to like explain all this stuff, and it's probably near
very
impossible. Yeah, you'd have to do them like one at a time. Yeah, this is really cool. I just love watching all of this tank farm stuff come together. Um, and I guess moving over to the oh, hold on, before we do that. So moving on down to this side, they are finally starting, it looks like, to get these methane pipes connected to some degree. So they now have. Is this a vacuum jacketed pipe down here? I can't
I have
tell.
no idea. I mean, for a second, I thought it was a CO2 tank from the booster chimes, but it,
Yeah, that one's really curious because I know it goes underneath here, but it almost doesn't look big enough. Actually, yeah, it does. Um, yeah, that's really
yeah,
weird, especially with this little port at the end of it. Like, what's going on there?
yeah. I mean, it almost looks like some sort of buffer tank, but I don't know.
Yeah, either way, they're getting this connected. We should eventually see them remove most of this stuff in here, which we're still waiting on. These are basically water tanks. Um, I'm not going to go too deep into that right now, but yeah, we'll see them remove most of the stuff, and then I don't know. It'll be interesting to see whether or not they end up expanding more methane tanks down here. Um, I don't know if they're trying to potentially move all of their methane storage over to this area and kind of ditch these smaller tanks down here. Um, that's something we still got to wait and see.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised just the small ones go away.
Yeah, I can't imagine what will go in their place though. Probably just separate, have a big gap in between it.
Or bring in more of the ones that they have for blocks and nitrogen.
True. But I imagine you probably want more methane storage than anything else because methane is always going to be brought in by trucks, whereas you'll be basically producing LOX and nitrogen over at the air separation unit eventually. So you don't necessarily need as much storage for that.
Right.
But
You probably only need 2 full loads worth.
yeah,
Meanwhile, as much methane as, and they're not flaring it, so it's sort of indefinite storage
yeah.
as long as the liquid
Um,
nitrogen's around.
Jesus, are they moving these again?
They brought in 3 extra fans for vaporizers. I
Oh,
think
okay.
that's,
So these are just
yeah,
temporarily being stored over here.
yeah, and
Yeah,
I
so
haven't
these are
figured out
basically
where.
the fans for down here.
Well, that's
And
the curious thing. Oh, that's one of the yellow wires.
oh yeah, I see it now.
Yeah,
Wow.
it's very SpaceX and stuff.
um, where were we?
The vaporizers and the methane. Oh, and
Oh
yeah,
yeah,
we have a test vaporizer, I think.
a test one.
Well, if it's the only
Oh,
one
like
here,
so you think they'll
yeah,
basically keep this here for the launch and see what happens to it before they install the other ones?
yeah, the
Hey, I mean that's
smartest thing
probably a
they've
good
done.
idea to just only have one instead of damaging all 6 of them.
Definitely. It's still kind of hilarious.
Yeah. All right, I'm gonna move us over to pad B, but we're gonna start with the um, propellant supply stuff first. So moving down here, wow, my orientation got all messed up doing that. I'll do this side.
Would you mind if I
So
knock out a bunch of questions here for a sec?
yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, I still got some pending questions from Hot Stage Ring and stuff like that. So, um, just want to thank Martin for gifting 5 memberships and Marvin for becoming a member. Um, Ground Truth asks, do I wonder if it is to make the hot stage ring heavier so it can fall from the booster faster, meaning the extra shielding on hot stage ring?
Mm,
Mhm.
I don't think they would increase the mass of the hot stage ring for any reason other than performance and not that kind of performance. Because that's a
Right.
mass penalty right there. I don't like they probably didn't. I think if it is related to the actual hot stage maneuver, they probably, like I said, what like 7 flights tried all these different maneuvers, hoping that they wouldn't have to do what they just did and incur another mass penalty, and then they decided to actually do that. I don't think it necessarily has to do with getting the hot stage ring away from the booster. What do you think?
I think it definitely might, whether that's just a byproduct or not, I'm not sure. Because since it's no longer symmetrical, it'll probably tumble,
Yeah,
Oh
yeah,
depending.
yeah.
you're absolutely right. And leading me into another question regarding that, Hayden Meeks asks, is it possible they're covering the vents to streamline aerodynamics of the ring so they can test a landing with it still attached? Seems like a good opportunity on B-14, they said.
Can you repeat that?
I wish I could, but I deleted it as soon as I pushed send. But Leo brings on a question very similarly. The modified hot stage ring is probably just to test some sort of one-time test to get data on something. Doubt they'd make a permanent change on this, a design that would be outdated pretty soon.
Um, well, they're gonna whatever they're doing right now, like they with the current versions of the boosters, they're able to basically each flight swap out those hot stage rings. But on the V3 boosters, with them being integrated, they're probably wanting to basically test things that they're planning on doing with that, like on a disposable hot stage ring, because you won't really want to make alterations to that when it's an integrated component. Not to say they can't, but they probably would like to avoid that. So this could be, in my opinion, probably part of gathering data for the V3 integrated hot stage ring. But on that note, I have a feeling the first integrated hot stage ring is already fully assembled inside of the Star Factory right now.
I did find the question I deleted if you're willing to take that.
Yeah.
All right, from Hayden Meeks, is it possible they are covering vents to streamline the aerodynamics of the ring so they can test it with the landing with it still attached? Seems like a good opportunity with Booster 14. So is it possible they're covering the vents to streamline the aerodynamics of the ring so they can test a landing with it still attached? No, I don't see any possible way of that.
Yeah, I mean, if you were trying to mess with aerodynamics for landing, I think this is the side you'd want to cover. Because this is the side the air is basically going to be passing up through, because it's gliding on this side. So your air is going to be passing up through this. If there was anything that if you're trying to mess with aerodynamics, it would probably be this side, I would have to imagine. And I don't think we'll ever see them attempt to land with one of these hot stage rings until they're integrated onto the booster.
That's right. Yeah. All right. That's enough for the hot stage ring questions. I do have some for the tank farm if you'd like.
Yeah.
All right. Six string simpleton. How much with how much of the piping and plumbing that we see above ground, how much of this plumbing is underground? Do we know?
A little. Pretty much what we see in the trench, the propellant trench. They generally don't run this sort of pipe work underground for access and maintenance reasons.
Well,
But
not anymore, at least.
true.
All right.
But
Black Eagle asking, since most of the piping for Tank Farm 2 was vacuum, is most of the piping for Tank Farm 2 vacuum jacketed like the version 2 transfer tubes?
as soon as it dives into the propellant trench, it switches to vacuum jacketed from rigid foam.
But is that just on the? Aren't most of this stuff vacuum jacketed? Oh, never mind. I see it.
Yeah,
I was going to say that maybe it was just the methane return that wasn't vacuum jacketed, but that's not correct.
Yeah, I think just for fitting everything, making this vacuum jacketed would have been challenging.
But I know these are vacuum jacketed right here. So you're saying it basically starts here?
Yeah, it's the ones coming out of the trench are where it stops.
Oof. Yeah. So all of this stuff is just regular installation up top. So they'll have to, once they've finished commissioning and all that stuff, they'll have to actually finish wrapping all this stuff, which is going to be a task on its own. Quite a bit.
It's going to be a nightmare.
Yeah. It's quite a lot to wrap.
All right, last question I've got on the tank farm from Kai Nessel. What is the diameter of the locks and CH4 pipes going into the trench from the pad?
I believe 20 and 24.
Locks and CH4 concurrently?
Ship is around 20 and booster tends to be 24.
Cool.
Yeah. The supply is 24 for locks from the tanks to the pumps, and methane is 30. Yeah, it's 30.
Really? Methane's bigger?
Yeah,
I thought it was the other way around.
I would have thought the same. I didn't look at the density, but yeah, it's a larger pipe.
This one's methane.
Yep, that's the main methane supply.
Interesting.
I know all the pipes and fittings and everything else on the pumps are 2 sizes smaller.
But going
And
into the
what's
trench, it flips, right? The locks pipes in the trench are larger.
yeah, and the methane shrinks, so go figure.
Oh man, I imagine PJ is going to get a laugh out of this if he watches this today.
Well, cool. We
Cool.
can go
Any
ahead
other
and move
questions?
on. Nah, you're good. Thanks.
All right. Perfect. Cool. Well, yeah, we will move on then. Pad B stuff. So, like I said, with that commodities stuff, we'll start with that. So yeah, the answering that question again, just everything down here goes underground. You have a loop there, goes underneath the tanks. Wait, isn't there another loop? Is there another loop in between here?
No, there's
I
just
forget.
2.
Just two.
There's,
Yeah.
yeah.
And then it goes into this trench right here. Not trench, but basically underground bunker, where they are doing a lot of work down there because they basically have to join this side and this side, which they I think have mostly done. It looks like, but the parts that go to the tower, they have not done that yet.
Right.
And I correct me if I'm wrong, but I thought they did part of the trench from the tower, like maybe out to here,
I thought they buried a culvert there
all the way
as
across.
well. Not all the way across, it was part way, but
Yeah.
is
So they're going to be doing that soon. I guess they're currently doing this area right here. Let me get a better view of that. So these are the basically gas supply going to the tower, which is interesting that they're insulated. Yeah. So wait, is there liquid here too? No, just gas.
just gas. The one liquid line goes to the deluge.
Okay.
I don't know why they're insulating these.
Yeah, that's curious. Maybe it's just for like extra protection.
Could be.
Although I'm not sure why you would necessarily need that. Also interesting that they didn't do an actual trench for this, but I guess with most of the gas pipes, they haven't included them. They were just buried in the ground instead of in a trench.
And
So yeah, this
encased in
basically,
concrete.
yeah. So it runs alongside this. It comes into here.
It pops up and
Oh, it
goes to
pops up into
that.
this.
Yep.
Why? Have you ever been able to make some sense out of what's going on here?
It's similar to by Massey's, some of it, between the fire stand and the tanks. There's a section with a bunch of control valves, but why, I don't know.
Yeah, the whole H pattern going on here is confusing me. But yeah, so you can see all of them, all of these pipes coming up out of the bunker right here, essentially. And then it looks like they're teeing into lines that are right here.
Yeah.
That's really weird.
Don't ask.
So basically going from down and then back down. Wait,
Yeah.
does it come back down from here?
Yeah. It goes down at the, where's the spaghetti is? At the edge.
This one?
That's the ship. Is that where your mouse is? That's the
So
ship's
wait, you're saying that it basically it doesn't actually enter the bunker. It goes
no.
up through here and around.
Yeah, the 4 pipes that are in the bunker, the small ones, are in the bunker the entire time. Yeah.
Okay, so these basically come up from the ground into this rack and then go across here
Right.
and then up.
Yeah,
and then down,
and
and
right.
then out.
Yes.
Uh,
I'm not sure. This looks like something I could have done with just a T, but
It'll all make sense when it's done. This is one of the weirdest parts of all of this, especially the fact that it goes all the way down here. Like there's something clearly missing. Um,
yes.
yeah, I do wonder. No, there's no way. I was gonna say I wonder if these could be like going over to the ASU, so like it tees in to the ASU, which would make absolutely no sense to use the same lines. So I'm just
Yeah.
gonna pretend I didn't say that.
Yeah. Because you have 3 very high pressure nitrogen and 3 lower, and I think 3 are the pre-press of nitrogen locks and methane. I
Mhm.
don't know if they still are using helium or if they've completely moved off it.
Yeah, that's one thing we haven't seen is helium storage at the tank farm, right?
Unless it's underneath the tanks, which would have been weird.
Oh, underneath the storage tanks. Yeah, that
Yeah,
makes sense. Well, it makes sense though. I think we'll find out eventually though. We'll know.
yeah.
We'll see them offload helium there one time, and that'll be the sign. But yeah, they've started to finally add some final concrete in this area. I think this is probably the first of it, really, in my opinion. Like going on this side, at least, there is some over the trench back there. But yeah, they've covered the trench right here. So basically, once this is done, they will concrete all of that, cover it, um, and then that'll allow them to then dig down here and finish that trench going from the bunker to the tower. And then they'll have a nice little driveway going across there. So there's a good chance that this concrete job will probably be done before this weekend's over, if I had to guess, if they haven't already started it already. Um, but yeah, that's the basically first step to finalizing most of this stuff down here. And what else? Oh yeah, the water side.
Oh,
Very interesting on the water side of things. Um, a lot of this is still a mystery as far as the gas generation supply for this. So obviously we do have the water tanks. The water lines are basically going from these tanks over to the trench. There are more water lines down here that are still yet to be installed, and um, I think some of this is supposed to go to the tower or
correct.
the launch. Yeah. Um, so they basically need to get this crane out of the way so they can finish doing that stuff. But in the meantime, they're also doing um, some CFA piles down here, which you can see the whole stack of them down here, a whole bunch of piles. I believe they've gone across like this, right?
Yes, but it's not clear if they're just for the blast wall or something else. Because there's some right up to the water tanks, which seems like that put the blast wall fairly close.
Which is probably the same as they are on the other tank farm storage, right?
Yeah, true.
But the other blast wall, I don't think had pilings to support it, right?
No, it's that's what's kind of odd is unless they're landing kind of which is would be weird, where that lift is on the bottom left of frame. I don't know why they would need that wall so strong.
It seems like they've kind of already gone down to this area a little bit. Are these
Yeah.
piles right here?
Yep. Anywhere
Oh,
where those, yeah, it's a lot.
yeah, not a straight line then.
They usually zigzag, and then they zigzag and fill in when they're doing 2 rows of
Yeah,
piles.
I want to believe this is not for the wall. For a wall, I hope it's for the gas generation system, just because we've yet to see that. But I mean, I can't really think of where else it would go but right now they are laying some more pipes down here, which looks like possibly a common manifold for that gas generation system. So like the water will basically come out of these tanks into the gas generation system, then back into the tanks. But I don't know. It's really weird the way this looks right now. Kind of hard to predict what's happening.
Yeah, because where your mouse is, that 4-port manifold lines up with the 4 ports coming from those 2 tanks on the pipeway for the liquid nitrogen. So what happens
Okay.
between that top manifold, and that lower one is a bit of a mystery.
I don't know how you see these ports up here. Like, I don't see
Oh,
them.
that one you can. Each right there where your mouse is a T facing down.
Okay.
Yeah.
So then it'll neck over to
Yeah.
this.
Yeah, but there'll be something between.
Right.
Because that lower one looks like that's the output. Because what BJ pointed out is it looks like it's right in line to pop up to the top manifold on those 4 tanks. Yeah.
Hmm.
It's
Gas generation is going to be very, very interesting.
yeah, I'm still going with a direct injection, like say doing packaging, but I could be wrong.
Yeah. That's the thing I'm waiting for most, is just to see that gas generation system. All right. I think we've spent a lot of time on that. We can probably move over to the actual flame trench, where we can see. Oh no, we're not going to start there. We'll start with the water bag test. So, did mention that these are currently filled right now. So they had just gotten these up here. They kind of sat here for most of the day, and they filled them sometime in the afternoon yesterday, and then they're currently still filled right now. So they're just sitting there hanging from the chopsticks right now. But very curious, the amount of weight here. I think it was like either 300 or 400 tons, something like that. And that is a lot less than what they did on the Pad A chopsticks, which were most recently, before the booster catch, tested up. The first booster catch, they were tested up to 700 tons, I want to say.
Yeah.
And curious to me that they aren't going all the way, because it kind of seems like they're getting ready for the first ship catch. However, I don't get why you wouldn't just certify it for booster catches at the same time. Like, that doesn't make sense to me. Do you have thoughts on that?
For me, this looked like just the ability to stack tests since they're carrying it all the way to the top and down. But yeah, the most recent test they did, they didn't lift the bags as far as I remember.
Yeah.
They only filled them at the stop. So
I
I could
thought
be
they lifted it.
mistaken.
I'm pretty sure they did. I'd have to go back and check though.
Yeah. I know they
Yeah.
have,
Right.
but I was surprised they didn't hang a couple more bags at least.
Agreed. So now we have the actual launch mount, which is looking pretty awesome down here. They have actually finished a lot of or most of the trench walls. Actually, I would pretty much say all of it. They're still, I think they're still waiting to fill everything from here back, possibly, which is why they've left the tops off of these.
Yeah, I think it's just the top, those triangle pieces, because I think they filled the flat portion.
Oh, down here.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. Because I remember 2 days ago, these panels were not here, and you could see the guys welding inside of there. So I'm guessing, finished up that welding. Then they covered this up and basically leaving these off so that they can pour all that concrete in through there to fill these triangle sections, which go basically up to the bottom of the launch mount, so you can see almost the final form of that essentially. We were obviously waiting to see whether or not this would get welded down, and we do have some updates on that. So this was a big debate for the longest time. And those of you who follow me on X probably saw this post. I asked Starship Gazer to get a close-up down here just so we could see what they were doing as far as welding goes. And so this is the bottom side of the table. This is the pedestal right here, and this is the table. So you can see a weld right here. This was one thing at least I was hoping would not happen, but in my opinion, now that I'm thinking about it, it kind of makes sense because you're going to have a lot of hot gas down here, and you probably don't want it penetrating through this gap. So the question, I guess, will be whether or not they do multiple passes right here, because this is just a single pass right here. If this is, I'm basically going to keep checking in on this to see if they do multiple, because I imagine you'd probably have at least somewhere between 3 and 5, if not more, and have a pretty big fillet right here. So yeah, this will be interesting because if in its current state, you could easily just cut this off if you wanted to. And the real question is whether or not they'll do it on the sides right here, because there is a fairly decent gap down here. However, you're not really as worried about gases penetrating through that zone. So yeah, right now, as far as it looks currently, I don't think this side's going to get welded, but we'll see. But if it stays the way it is currently, the only welds will be just on the inside down here instead of on these other 3 sides. So that'll be something to look out for. So I don't know, maybe the debate isn't over yet. It's not over till it's over, you know.
You can cut welds.
Yes, you can cut welds, especially a single weld like that. Not too bad to have to cut that. But man, this is pretty amazing actually seeing this in place now, and just, you know, for so long we've been wondering what it's going to look like. I mean, they started this back in August, I want to say.
Yeah, I think they were done. They drilled the piles in mid-August, and the stuff starts showing up end of September.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, now we finally have it up here, and you can see that they have so far they still have to add two manifolds on the side of this, so they need one right here and one on this side. This one still has exposed pipes, which I imagine will probably be covered. Whatever, I don't know if it'll just be local right here or if it'll extend over onto the gantry, which will be another important thing to look out for as far as what that looks like. They may actually remain exposed too. But on this side, you can see that there's a little gap down here, and I think there's probably a better angle of that. Yeah. So you can see this gap down here, which is very similar to the one that was, kind of similar to the one that was on the pancake structure for pad A. And this basically, the only reason they haven't covered this is because it's a clean out. So after they push water through this for the first time and force all the debris out, then they'll come back and lay this strip down here, I think. Because you got to have a way of draining this, because you don't want to push all that stuff out through those holes for the very first time.
No, you'll.
But I don't know if that would work though, because
a low pressure, just flood it and have it just, because as long as the outlet is lower than the top holes, it will overflow that side first.
Yeah,
because it is lower.
But you would have to you would have to basically push it through these three sides and to have it come out here, right? But I don't know if they're. I'm not sure if they're interconnected that way where it would allow you to do that. I'm pretty sure it is. Where there's holes going through each of those supports on the side. So, but as far as we know, didn't they install the elbow section to go to connect between these two?
Yes. Or
So,
yeah, or they were just prepping for it and it's on the ground. I think there's an elbow under that tent.
I don't. So it's not probably not even possible to isolate this side and just push through with the other three.
Yeah, I
That's a bit
think
weird.
they might have clean out holes around the inside of the ring. Sort of what they
Oh, down here.
did. Yeah, because
Yeah,
that
that
way
would make
you
sense.
would. Because
Um,
yeah, on Pad A they did have clean outs exactly like every other one had clean outs like this.
yeah, those were a little different though because they were caps, so they like could screw those caps on and off. Um, so this is a little bit different, but still, I think the same general idea. But yeah, interesting the way that this basically rests on the edge. I think it. I can't tell if it's overhangs. Oh yeah, it just barely overhangs the gantry.
Yeah, the little tabs that come out between the gantry and the OLM is what the pipe's sitting on.
Okay, that makes sense.
So,
Yeah,
but
pretty awesome. And we will see once they finish up everything on the inside of this gantry structure, we will see them start to put paneling on the outside of this. I do think that they're also soon preparing to put the additional supports that go up the side of this. I think these have been delivered already. They may be right here.
no, thought those were trench covers, propellant covers,
These
but
are trench covers.
now I'm not sure because they don't look.
I mean, they almost look like it. They see like a little plate on the bottom of them, but
We're running out of places for those, so because there's
oh
covers all
wait,
over the
hold
place.
on. If these are the same width as these, then that's what. Then you're right.
Yeah.
Trench covers.
Okay. Yeah, they're 2 and 2. Okay, that makes.
Dang it. Well, we're still waiting on the steel for this to show up. Then, in that case, I probably have to go back through Sanchez and see if they're in Sanchez or not. But extending away from this gantry, we have these over here, which I'm a little bit curious what your thoughts are, Alex. I'm initially thinking this may have something to do with the penetrations going through here. So, are these basically the? I'm pretty sure these run into the bottom of the trench for the
Right.
sump pumps to basically
Uh,
pump out all of the water from the bottom of the trench.
Now they're straight ahead. There's 2, 4, 6, 8. That block of power.
Oh, these are for power.
Yeah, yeah, and I think they stub out, and those are just high voltage distribution volts.
Oh, so we'll have transformers on top of these.
No, I think they're just pull boxes. How we have those triples all over the place.
Okay, that makes sense then.
I mean, it's built ridiculously strong compared to Pad A's.
So wait, it's got to go all the way around the backside like this.
Yeah, the plumbing, they already trenched to most of it has already been installed.
Okay. Yeah. So I guess one thing we don't have then is anywhere for. We don't know how they're going to pump out water from the bottom of here. We did see what looked like basically sumps for water to collect in for them to pump it out, but I don't see where they're actually going to have like a retention pond. Maybe that might be in this
Supposed to
area.
be, yeah. to the corner because at
So
the bottom
basically
of
from
this,
here all the way over.
yeah, it'll probably be just another weird triangle shape.
Yeah, that'll be pretty interesting. Yeah, I'm really excited to see how this ends up looking in the end. Do you think they'll be able to fit that retention pond without having to expand down here? I'm guessing there's probably really no choice, right?
Yeah, I think it's a lot larger than what A has
Okay.
since because like A they developed all the way to that black silt fence. So,
Hmm.
so I mean that gives them a lot more space once they do that here.
True. Yeah, this is pretty amazing. So the as far as concrete goes, they still need to do the ends right here, which bit curious what they're waiting on for that, um, especially on this side.
I think that side it's gonna extend almost to the edge.
So they want to like tie it into the
Yeah,
slab up here, basically.
exactly.
Right, that makes sense.
Everything here's makes pad A just be surprised it even works.
Right. Yeah, this is very awesome. Am I missing some things down here?
Um, the power vault, not really. We're still waiting for Cutie structures, but
Yeah, which will be basically first outline of QD right here. The second one is a little bit more difficult to see, but right in this area.
yeah,
Yeah, going to be very interesting to see how that ends up looking. So you're thinking that that valve manifold that we saw will probably drop into here?
either up there or on the bottom floor, but probably up there.
I don't see the penetrations for those pipes. Is it right
Um,
here?
no, there's the where the scaffold tower is, between the OLM and that bay. No, in the middle where you were. Um, yeah, right there. That the wall is inset, so there's a big chase through there.
Okay.
And then if you go down one level, uh, there's just a corrugated uh, sheet decking, but they never poured it, so more than likely they'll cut a hole there.
That makes sense. Yeah, this is amazing. I'm really loving the way this turned out. It has turned out so far. It's just a massive upgrade from Pad A, and man, I cannot wait to see the first launch from this. There's gonna be a lot of firsts coming up. We'll probably I'm debating. I'm not sure whether or not we'll see them actually. I'm wondering what kind of deluge test they'll do on this because that'll be a lot of water to pump out. Um, and they may not be able to do it until they have a retention pond. So that'll be very interesting to see.
Yeah, because it's going to flood very quickly down there.
Yeah. Let's see. Do we have any questions on Pad B? I don't know if we missed anything down here.
I've probably got an hour's worth of questions stacked up here if you want to get into
Oh,
them.
wow.
Speed run.
Yeah, for sure. All right. Let me scroll back up because as a new question comes in, it messes with my scrolling. So I want to thank Mock Diamonds for a $10 super sticker, as well as Sharpie for a $10 super chat stating choo choo. Todd Bernal with a $20 super chat. Cabin, please. Choo choo, boys and girls. Let's go. P.S. Congrats on 100,000. Zach, you deserve it.
Thank you. Thank you. Definitely appreciate that.
Definitely.
Been
Also
a
gotta,
long time coming for sure.
yeah, surprised it took this long.
Right?
Right?
I'm still not convinced it's real yet because I had a really weird thing happen yesterday with like 1,500 subscribers all coming from one video that didn't make sense. So I don't know. I think it's bots, honestly, but whatever. We'll see what happens in a few days if they delete him again.
Right. Yeah, I've heard Marcus mention things like that before too. And so I got to thank Lossosis Bob for a $20 super sticker. Thank you all for that support. Let me dive into some questions here that keep on coming in. So Spherical Cal asked, what material are the tank farm pipes made of? Steel, stainless, aluminum, something else? Different for locks versus other commodities? What do you think?
Stainless steel. 314 probably.
All right, that makes that one easy to speed run. Question from Abel George Wilson. Why have they started the nitrogen delivery for Pad B water deluge this early?
For commissioning and testing out all the connections and pressurizing the system. In the future, it can be refueled from the tank farm.
Is it set up to do that?
Yeah, it's they ran the line. It's on the other end. It's past the high pressure cylinders. Yeah, it runs along there. And at the top it ducks underground briefly and pops up at the weird H area.
Okay.
Yeah,
All
that
right.
yeah. At the very end there's a round thing just to the right. Yeah, that's where it pops out the ground.
Okay.
Cool. Sounds like you're facing away from your mic there, Zach, but
Me?
question.
No, I'm leaning back in my chair a little bit.
Oh, there you go. Okay. Question from SJ. Can you show exactly how the deluge system will work, please?
Not yet.
No. They're not finished with
Think
it,
so.
so yeah, we have no idea. We have a good idea. It's missing a major component, so yeah, we don't know yet.
All right. Regarding the mast that they're testing on Tower B Chopsticks arms, Resize asks, the arms are half as long, so the torque is half of what it was on the first sticks. So do they not need as extreme of testing on the load?
I don't. I want to say that's not necessarily true. I'd have to go back and look at the previous tests because I thought that the bags were about the same distance along the chopsticks. I don't think they were at the end of the chopsticks. So I mean, if that was the case, you would need more water, not less. Like if they put 700 tons down here, then you probably need 1,000 here. You know what I mean? Like that's
Yeah.
yeah.
So it still seems they're testing 400 tons. Do we think they're going to probably add more?
They have to eventually.
All right, very well then. A8, do we think we'll see staircase on the flame trench wall legs?
No.
If
On the inside of it?
Not specified in the question.
I don't see why you would necessarily need that, because you have access to. The only thing you need access to is the launch mount, and I do think eventually this. Let's see if I can find the angle of it. This side. I think this will eventually be closed. I'm honestly not sure why they even. I think they just left it. Honestly, yeah, I can't think of why they even left it open to begin with. It did help with the lift, but they didn't need it anywhere else, so I'm not sure why it's there in the first place. They do have holes along this side going into the gantry structure, so yeah, there'll be stairs in here to allow them to climb into there. I imagine there's got to be a permanent staircase inside of here somewhere, though,
I
which
think
doesn't
it'll
currently
be
exist.
between the wall and the gantry frame, because on the other side, yeah, that gap. because it's
That
on
would
the
be an
other
interesting
side.
location for it.
It's wider than you think.
Oh, I know. I've seen it. I saw the guys walking through there.
Yeah,
So you think it might come up through here?
yeah. It's the least offensive to their floor plan.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh
if it
wow,
happens, that
scaffolding's
would make
going
sense.
crazy.
Yep.
Seriously.
Oh, this image is interesting because you see the work platform for where they're putting the one of the BQDs.
Right here.
Yeah. Yep.
All right, we'll continue on with questions. One from Cumulus Granitis. Do you see the need for a suckback to clear all the water from the lines post their use, or would a high pressure air blast be better for drying out the lines to help prevent corrosion inside?
If any of the propellant lines are going to be dry, there
I
should
think he's talking about
no.
water.
I think that was more
Eh,
related to the flame trench and water deluge.
I mean,
Yeah, I don't think, I mean, because once the water comes up through the wall, like everything inside of here will drain out. There'll be like a little bit left at the bottom down here, but uh, most of it will drain out. Um, as far as the actual water lines going from here to the tanks, that'll pretty much just stay primed up. Um, that's how they do it with pad A. They do. I don't know if they have. Oh, and on pad A they have caps on the. There's a small trench. There's a small trench down here, which if they need to, they can open this up and access it to suck all that water out. But they've not done that. So, um, I mean, as far as we know, there's still water in this plate right now.
All right, so it pretty much just kind of stays stagnant until it's reused.
Yeah.
yeah.
Cool. Question from Kai Nessel. What's with the trench wall angle stepping down instead of connecting straight to the end of the trench wall?
The grade drops down. I think he's talking about the four ends where at the end of the trench where I think it's because the grade steps down and they're only going to fill it up to that height. At the
I was talking
Zack
about
on
this extension right
oh
here.
oh
Why not go all the way to the end?
no reason, more back pressure.
Yeah, I mean, most of it's going to shoot out, but it'll also curl over the sides a little bit. But it's going to be crazy when they do a first static fire on here. It's going to make the ship static fire stand look tiny in comparison as far as the volume of steam that comes out of here.
Seriously, we are all looking forward to it, that's for sure. Question from Matt. How does the oil and top plate release steam from the vaporized water inside? Could it be the reason those ports are still open on the side of the mount?
If
There
steam
will
builds
be,
up, I'll go there.
no, go ahead.
No, if steam builds up inside these plates, it'll probably have melted through because it's 1 inch stainless. Stainless does not transmit heat very well. So you have to keep water flowing through. You can't use it as like a boiler.
Yeah, you won't see steam inside of there. If you do, then you'll have a major problem. That means that the water is no longer flowing out, basically.
Yeah.
All right. Question from Jack Truscott. How are they going to install the flame diverter cap ends?
Through
Um,
remove scaffolding down the center.
yeah. And you can also use, they have special counterweight jigs that they can use to lift it in sideways. So shouldn't be too
Yeah.
big of a deal to do that.
Yeah, they use those all the time, I think, on high bay or mega bays.
Yeah.
All right, cool. I only got a couple left here. One more from Matt. Do you suspect there may be any problems with the QDs once water is spraying all over them constantly, or do you think the QD doors will mitigate that?
It'll probably help if anything. The water from the top plate will probably not stop or not start until the doors are already closed. So at that point, it's just spraying on the exterior, which will help. So yeah, I think it'll be a benefit having that.
All right, another follow-up question just came in from Kai Nessel. If there are threaded caps on the Pad A Deluge plate, and how would they access those if they need to remove them on Pad B?
So on Pad A, they basically, it's a one-time thing. So like, unless you had something happened over here where you had to cut into these pipes for some reason, there would be no reason to bleed the system again. So basically, they haven't needed to bleed this, but if they did need to, they would have to cut those back open. So the gaps it's like right here, you can actually see it. They would have to cut that back off if they needed to do that, but they're not going to do that. Did you see this? What is going on here? They put like some sort of seal.
Yeah, that keeps opening. Because that's a Fondag to steel edge that they've never figured out how to seal up.
Cool. Any other questions?
All right. Yeah, one more just came in from Banana. If only half of the water deluge outlets are activated, would the OLM survive that?
I'm not sure what they mean by half.
Yeah, I disregard. Old tech guy Paul, flame trench pumps like at Massey's? Question mark.
We don't know. I mean, it's going to be similar. It'll have to have a gas generation system. We just don't know what it's going to look like, how it's going to work yet.
I'll take one final question from Crane Man before we start our signing offs. How do you think the water will be sprayed out of the water-cooled plate on the top of OLMB? I mean, at what angle?
That's a good question. If I had to guess, it's going to go out, but there's a chance that some of them could go in and others go out. Yeah, I imagine they spray in this direction outwards because you want to push the plume away, not towards the center. So yeah, it'll probably go out in all directions.
That's a good guess, but man, can't wait to see it in person.
I wouldn't be surprised if it's capable of reaching the inside of this tower. They're going to have to put cladding on the outside of this because I imagine it'll hit the tower.
Yeah, it probably will be as violent as Pad A's.
Yeah.
Just a sheet of water on all going four directions.
Going to be exciting for sure. Well, that's all I got, gents.
Cool.
Awesome. Well, I hope everybody enjoyed the show today. I'm glad I was able to be here today instead of having to wait till next week. So that was awesome for me. It's really nice seeing the development every week, and we wouldn't be able to do it without everybody who supports the channel. So on that note, thanks to everybody who is a Patreon and YouTube member, and also for the donations on PayPal whenever those do happen. And also all of the gifted memberships help us out a lot. If you did receive one of those and are new to receiving a gifted membership, then just make sure you take advantage of that and actually download the images from this week so you can go through them yourself. So if you basically, I think it's under the membership tab or community tab, one of the two of those, where you should be able to get the link for all of the images for this week. Yeah, check all of those out. There's, I think, 210 of them. I'm not sure what level of access it gives you. I don't know if it's the full gallery, but you still, no matter what, will have images for all locations at Starbase, which is really awesome. And like I said, again, that goes a long way into enabling us to continue to do these flyovers. So we appreciate all of that support. If you guys would like to become a member, then please do that as well. We definitely appreciate every new member. And yeah, like I said, with us being like 3 years into the show now, I think it's really been helpful for allowing us to continue doing this. So want to thank all of you guys one more time. And yeah, thank you to Joe for handling questions and donations, Jen for organizing the stream. We have Matt, I don't know how to say your name. I should have asked this before the show. We do have a new producer for today. Joe, do you know how to say that? Matsukawa?
Matsukawa Zakarai. We call him Matt, but yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, thanks, Matt.
Yeah.
You're doing a great job, bud.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for running the stream today. Thanks, Alex, for helping me out as well. Definitely appreciate it because there's lots of things that I fell behind on. So it's super helpful having you around. And I guess with that, I will sign off and see y'all next week.
Thank you, Zach. It's always a great show when you're here. And Joe, Jen, Matt, everybody else. And also, hopefully Vic's got her membership.
Unfortunately, she did not.
Oh, well, we'll have to do it again next week. Try again next week.
Oh, really quick, one more plug. If you guys haven't already checked out my 96-minute episode about the Starship B2 issues, make sure to check that out. It's been out for probably about 6 days now. I imagine most of y'all in the chat have probably already seen it, but if you haven't, make sure to check that out. We'll answer a lot of questions that you may have about the V2 ships issues, and actually that'll be really interesting. That's one thing we didn't touch on, that it does seem like they will be they no longer will be catching the booster on this next launch. I think potentially for the next 2 launches at least. I'd have to verify that, but I know at least on the next launch, it seems like they will not be catching the booster. So I did have some explanations on possible reasons why they might do that for this flight in that episode. There are also other reasons as well too, but yeah, make sure you guys check that out if you haven't already. And yeah, with that, I'll go ahead and pass it off to Joe.
All right. Yeah, y'all have already pretty well echoed all of my sentiments as well. So to avoid redundancy, I will just say thank everybody, especially Mauricio and Pilot Fred. And thanks everybody for a wonderful YouTube chat. And we'll see you all for the next flyover show and tell. Most engines cut off. Hot staging confirmed. Love you. Bye.